We have with us Dr. B. Srividya, Assistant Professor from Department of PG and Research Department of Computer Science from our institution. She has completed her PhD in Bharatiyar University in April 2019. She has cleared her state eligibility test of computer science in March 2018. And she has completed her MSc Computer Science and Technology, which is a 5 years integrated course from MOP Vaishnav College. She has done an additional PG of doing MBA in systems from University of Madras. She is having 9+ years of experience in higher education and 2 years of industry experience with Ramco Infotech Solution Private Limited. She has filed a patent for method for securing data in cloud with symmetric crypto keys from multimodal biometrics. This is the research work she has done during her PhD. And she has authored a book, Cloud Data Security. She has published many research papers in national and international conferences and UGC Scopus and SCI journals. Thank you so much, Srividya ma'am. And currently, she is taking care of revamping our website. And thank you so much for being with us to discuss on your knowledge on plagiarism and how to avoid plagiarism. Thank you so much, ma'am, and over to you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Hope I am audible. Am I?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Let me share my screen. I hope the screen is visible. A very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I thank the management and research director for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with all of you. I'm very happy to be in this forum on this topic, a strong no to plagiarism. This topic, I think all of us are very much right now into this familiar term called plagiarism, because when we are doing our research, either as a scholar or when we are supervising, this is one common terminology that all of us are warned of not to be part of when we are writing this our research papers. Now we will begin with understanding what we will be looking at in this session. We will just understand what is it, why do we say that it is offensive, and how was it earlier and how is it now? What are the different categories of plagiarism? And the most important thing why we are here is how can we avoid plagiarism, both as a resource person or the author, and as well as from plagiarizing from both the perceptions. Finally, we will reserve some time for question and answer. Let us begin the session now. So plagiarism. So it's a well-known definition, the practice of taking someone else's work or ideas and pausing them as of one's own. It's actually a term which is derived from the very old language Latin, which is actually meaning kidnapping. So kidnapping in general term, we say we take possession of somebody else's property and claim it to be our own. So to that extent, plagiarism is actually very, very offensive, so that it is actually compared to the level of kidnapping. But here, what is actually kidnapped is somebody else's property, which is intellectual. So that is something that all of us deliberately do not want to do. But for some reasons, we end up either intentionally or unintentionally for various reasons, which we will discuss at the later of the session. Now, why do we say that plagiarism is an offense? So there are multiple reasons why it is actually not a good practice to have a plagiarism. So definitely when it is said that it is an act of stealing somebody else's intellectual property, how can it not be offensive? And it's actually not an ethical practice to be doing such an action. And very importantly, this all of us definitely know. If actually a person is found to have plagiarized, definitely his reputation is taken for a toss. Probably he might have submitted all the original work all along, but all of a sudden in one particular paper, he was found to have plagiarized content. Then even though he had published a lot of his original work, they will not be able to appreciate his work that he has done so. One small act of plagiarism will definitely bring down the entire reputation that he had built all these years. And additionally, a very, very important threat is if I am the supervisor and I am signing the thesis or a dissertation of my scholar, and later on, if it is found that she has a plagiarized content in her thesis, it's not only that person, it's not only my scholar who will be held responsible. I am, being the supervisor, will be equally held responsible for such an act of plagiarism. So, and in addition to that, there are other chain of parameters which are also involved in this. It's the institution's name, which is going to have a bad name, a very black mark for the institution, the publisher, the university, the person who has done it, and the person who has guided it. So for all these reasons, it is definitely called an offensive action. And when we start avoiding plagiarism, what we get out of that is a perfect, genuine, and original research. There will always be new findings and solutions. Who knew just 2 years back, none of us imagined that we will be caught into such a pandemic. We never thought that our classes would be made online. We never thought that we would be running in queues to get our shots done. None of us imagined all these. So every single day, every fresh day, we are posed with a lot of challenge, and we need a new solution for the new challenges that we are coming across. And research is also like that. I cannot be going about giving the same solution for a new problem, which is not going to be relevant anymore. So when we avoid plagiarism, we will definitely, we are sure to have a lot of fresh findings, which will help us to make new inventions, new work that we can contribute to our society. So for all these good reasons, it's very, very important that we deliberately and consciously avoid plagiarism. Now, having, some person plagiarizing in one corner, let us have that on one spectrum. On the other side, how will you feel, or how would we feel if our own work is being used by someone else and we come to know of that? Can we be able to ever accept that my work is being used by somebody else, claiming that it is her work? And on any circumstance, I don't think any of us can agree to that. Now, here is just a screenshot of an author who had actually read a book which is very much similar to the book that he had published. He says, "Then I opened the page the reader had cited. I can't describe what I felt in that moment. The shock, the grief, the sense of betrayal." Very true. We feel that we are betrayed when my work is claimed as somebody else's work. So when we do not want our thing to be plagiarized, the same way we are not expected to, we are not supposed to plagiarize somebody else's work for both the reasons. Now, but why do we talk of this all of a sudden? Why do we say we cannot afford to have a plagiarized content? But we are also aware that a lot of plagiarism is still prevalent in the research fraternity. My thought is probably it all started when we were, from our kindergarten age, where these pictures that is flashed on the screen is actually the projects that are done by kindergarten students. So when I say these are the projects done by kindergarten students, it's very much obvious that the mother's invisible hand, the mother of the child, the invisible hand of the mother is very much visible here. It's definitely not possible for a kindergarten child who is just 4 years, 5 years to create such amazing models. We tend, as parents, as teachers, we tend to tell the child that I will help you, I will be with you, I will help you in creating your content and all those things. Over the years, we take that as a practice. All of a sudden, when we come to this research fraternity, we are told not to use somebody else's work, not to take somebody else's help, and all those things. So probably that's the practice that we start from the beginning and we tend to follow. But though we can say that that's how we have been brought up, we cannot give this as a strong no to plagiarism. So we have to start changing. We have to start changing, looking at the things that we are actually using. I mean, just in case I am not audible, I'm just checking in between. Am I audible? Can somebody tell me whether I am audible?
You are audible, ma'am. You are audible.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So now, how was plagiarism then, and how is it now? Earlier, we did not have so many internet resources. We did not have many. There was no digitization of content. All that we had was everything was in a hard copy. So probably when we compare the publishing, when it comes to an era where there was no internet and where we had only hard copies, and now the era with internet. A big thanks to all the technologies and the newer web resources which can check and tell whether the content is plagiarized or not. So in earlier days, suppose if I'm going articles, if I find it's or the content provider, and there was no software to track, and there was always a less chance of getting caught. But now it's not so. The scenario has totally changed. There is an enormous revolution and evolution of the technology. So even there is the smallest piece of text which is copied will definitely be picked up by the plagiarization. A lot of this software which are available to check for plagiarism. Now, we will just take just take 2 tracks for you. I would be very happy if any of you can unmute and tell me your thoughts on this. Can I go ahead and play? I would like to get your feedback. Yes, ma'am. Can I hear from you? Shall we listen to some music?
Yes, ma'am.
மானம் பெரியதென்று வாழும் மனிதர்களை மான் என்று சொல்வதில்லையா? தன்னை தானும் அறிந்து கொண்டு ஊருக்கும் கொள்பவர்கள் தலைவர்கள் ஆவதில்லையா? மானம் பெரியதென்று வாழும் மனிதர்களை மான் என்று சொல்வதில்லையா? தன்னை தானும் அறிந்து கொண்டு ஊருக்கும் கொள்பவர்கள் தலைவர்கள் ஆவதில்லையா?
Can I have your input? Can somebody tell me what cropped your mind when you listen to both the tracks?
The song is being copied in the music background.
Yes, yes. We could find some kind of a similarity between both the tracks. Remix is something different, but copying somebody else's tune, again, that is also called as plagiarism. So we can, when we are the readers of some article, when we find 2 articles to be really similar, the first thing that we do is we tend to check which one got published earlier, so that we can vouch as the original content, and the one that came later after that we can count it as something that was plagiarized. So there are multiple ways in which plagiarism can happen. Let us now look at the different types of plagiarism. There are actually so many types at the micro level, macro level. I've taken something that's very common in general. If we can classify plagiarism as global, or sometimes it's called clone, find and replace, control C, hybrid, accidental, and recycle. Now let us look at all these one after the other. Yeah. So first thing is called as the clone. So cloning, we all know, just taking a copy, exact copy of what is existing and claiming it to be our own work. That's what we call it as a global clone. Now, it's again, the definition goes, using the work of someone and claiming it to be one's own original work. So where do they get these? How can I use, or how can somebody do a clone or a global plagiarism? So there are a lot of books online. There are a lot of articles. Say, for example, I have been asked to write an essay on Earth Day. I have no clue, or I don't have time what to write, how to write, nothing I know. So what I do, I just go buy a essay book from the bookshop. I find that there was something which was very relevant to my topic. I copy paste. I exactly use those words, imitate that entire content, and publish it as my own essay. That becomes a clone. Now, generally, when we try to upload a cloned article in any plagiarism software, we can find that the similarity would be 100%. And what is the consequence? There is no originality. Even if I might have done a lot of good work, but just because of this, my authenticity is lost. And it's actually going to give me a very high degree of offense. It's not acceptable at all to clone or do a global plagiarism. For that matter, any kind of plagiarism is not allowed. Now, next one is find and replace. If a person is very good in a language, if he has a good idea of how to rewrite the idea in his own words, but without giving an impression that it has been copied from something else, then we say that it is find and replace. That's one end. On the the keywords in the main words, so that where I have the same idea, but I'm going to rewrite it in a different way, then that is going to become a find and replace plagiarism. And here also, generally, whenever we are citing, whenever we are taking somebody else's portion of work, either to compare or to project or whatever, what we need to do is we have to always give credits. If you are not giving credits, then I'm going to rewrite the same idea, then it is called find and replace. Let me just try to help you understand this. Now, we can just have the original content. I have taken a bit, this is only for understanding. In the real sense, people take the little technical concepts and try to rewrite. So the original content goes like this. In today's world of internet, security has become a significant area of research. Good. Now, on the right-hand side of the plagiarism content, it's exactly the same. Can somebody tell me what kind of plagiarism is the first one depicting? Can somebody tell me? Yes, audience? Yes?
It's a cut, copy, paste. Just they have copied the entire content.
Exactly. It's a clone. The first one is a clone. Definitely, all the plagiarism tools can pick up such cloned content. Whereas the second one, it's actually reflecting the same idea, but written in a different way. Scope of research in the field of security is prominent in the current internet world. So which says that the underlying idea, whatever the original content was trying to reflect, the same thing is reflected here. But just to avoid plagiarism, this has been rewritten in a different way. Though it's written in a different way, it may not be picked up by a less sensitive or less effective tool. That does not mean that it is allowed. Any form of plagiarism, whether it is a clone one or whether it is a find replace, it's definitely not acceptable. Let us move on to the third kind, which is Control C. Control C is, we tend to compare this with clone, it's not so. But here, a piece of text, when you have a long paper which is written for, say, 15 pages, you're going to copy 1 or 2 pages, a piece of text from somewhere, but not you don't give a proper credit. It's not cited properly. Okay, it goes like this: written piece that contains significant portion of a text from a single source without a single alteration. It's verbatim copy, but what I'm going to do is that's not going to form the major, that's not going to form the entire content of my paper. It's going to but occupy a major chunk or copy or verbatim. We'll move on to the fourth one. Yeah, before we move on, let us just look at this quote. Don't take the rest after your first victory, because if you fail in the second, more lips are waiting to say that your first victory was just luck. All right. Now I'm writing a book, say for example, on success. Now I feel when I am authoring the book, I feel that it would be nice if I could quote Dr. Abdul Kalam sir's quote. So now I want to quote this just to add inspiration. Readers. At the same time, I'm deliberately using just with an intention to not because I'm running out of content, but because I really want to have it. So remember, when we are doing so, and even when I'm giving the quotation, I can also additionally cite from where I took this particular quote. So when we have such definitions, when we have laws in sciences, or when we have such quotations, always remember that we have to cite and use it with a double quotation when we are using such definitions and quotations. We'll move on to the next one. I'm sorry, I'm displaying this picture at the verge of lunchtime, but it's just to depict something else. So hybrid is, we are combining from multiple sources and finally bring about a new one and saying that it's my own work. That's actually hybrid. So the copy is not from one source. The copy is from multiple sources. So the big meal here reflects that. It's a fusion meal where you have South Indian, North Indian, African, Asian, from all cuisines, you have the food here. So this does not mean that I have created my own menu, which is totally new. No, not so. It says that I have borrowed from multiple places and claimed that it is new. That's what we call it as hybrid plagiarism. So combining perfectly cited sources with copied passages. I am copying it from a cited sources, but I am citing it. But to create such a hybrid content, the person who is going to plagiarize, he has to put in a lot of effort. I think it's not required because anyway we're going to get caught. So in the creation of the content, and if we have a very effective tool which is highly sensitive, definitely from how many ever sources that we pick up from, be it 100 or 50 or whatever be the number, definitely the tool will pick it up and say these are the sources from where they are picked up. Now let us move on to the last but one, which is accident. So this generally happens to those people, the readers who keep reading a lot of articles generally. So when I'm reading too many articles, intentionally or unintentionally, knowingly or unknowingly, I tend to imitate or I tend to grab the content from some of the articles which I have read. So my intention is definitely not to use the same content. It's just that unintentionally by accident, I have used somebody else's content. Again here, this is not to justify that this is right. It's again a type of plagiarism, which is again not acceptable. And this is mostly done when I'm trying to review somebody else's work, but I have neglected or I have by mistake, I have not included the citation in of that source. So that becomes my accidental plagiarism. The last one, this is most common. There are the two common types of plagiarisms that generally is are recycling. Now I'm doing my second work based on my first work. Then I find that I tend to use many of my content from the previous work. Then I am borrowing generously from my own work. So that becomes self-plagiarism, or I am recycling the content. I am reusing the same content. Now here is an example where every single line that is there on the screenshot shows us it is a plagiarized. But when I look at the resource or the source, it is pointing to my own paper, which was published earlier. So you cannot still say that it is okay. But you can ask me, what if I recycle my own thing? It's anyway mine. Why should I not reuse? So what is the result? There is no new contribution. I am beating around the bush. Whatever I had been telling, I'm trying to tell the same thing over and over again. And every time I'm going to do a self-plagiarism, I'm claiming a very old work as a completely new work, which is again not good to the society, not good to the readers or to the young researchers who are trying to make out a new idea from whatever we are publishing. Now, so all these we have been speaking plagiarism, the types and length. So everywhere we kept saying that we have to do the citation. We have to do the citation. It's okay if you cite, you borrow the content. It's okay to cite. Fine. But can I say that if I borrow the content, I can cite? Can I keep borrowing from multiple places? I cite. I make sure that I have cited. Can I still say that it's my original content? No. We should follow a 80-20 rule. 80% should be at least original work, and 20% is an allowable level of citation. So we cannot have 100% cited work, then it's not our work anyway. So it can be be something less than or equal to 10%. Now I would just like to share a secret here. When we are using a highly effective plagiarization tool, and if we manage to get a less than 10% take value, then that becomes a very easy gateway for us to publish our article and manuscript in top-notch SCI, Science Cited Index for science people, Scopus, and other really highly high-rated, high-impact factor journals. That's very much possible. Lower the plagiarism value, it reflects that the author has given a lot of original content, and obviously we stand a higher chance of getting our papers published in any of these journals. Now, the most important, how do we avoid? I don't want to, anybody for that matter doesn't want to have a higher level of plagiarism, but how do we avoid? There are two angles from which we can think this. If I am the content provider, how do I protect from my content being plagiarized? That's number one. Number two, if I am writing a content, how do I lessen the value of my plagiarism content in my work? So these are the two perceptions that we need to look at. Now, from plagiarizing, how can we do is definitely we have to, as I had been discussing in the previous slides, we have to make sure that we do proper citation. There are multiple formats in which the citations or references can be given. So we can stick on to the standard reference models and then do the citation. That's very, very important. And as I told you earlier, quotations not to be forgotten. And yes, now we were talking about plagiarism. I think some maybe in 2014, directed, which was based on Chetan Bhagat's novel called Two States. Now, can we say that this movie is plagiarized? When are done in a very proper legal way, we don't say that in this context, we don't say that it is plagiarized. Because this movie had bought the rights from the author and all the credits were properly given. So this was not claimed as a plagiarized content. The same way, here and there, as we said that 80-20% rule, on 20%, if I'm going to use some definitions, some laws, which I'm citing, quoting properly, then that will not be claimed as a plagiarized content. Now, generally, where do we tend to have a higher level of plagiarism? When we have our own research papers where we are giving a new model, the chances of plagiarism is quite less there. But generally, when we go for a literature review, where I'm trying to read a lot of other people's work and write a review on my own for that, that's where we tend to, but again, this is an unintentional one. We tend to have a higher level of plagiarism. How do we avoid this? We have to understand the concept, and from our angle, we have to reflect what the author is trying to say. Or we can also analyze the inferences. What are the pros and cons? How it could have been done? In what way the parameters could have been chosen to improve? So from these different angles, if we can think and pen down, then definitely we will not be inclined towards the author, and we will not be end up. Now, there are also other important ways by which we can deliberately avoid. We can use a lot of plagiarism checking tools. There are a few open source tools, and there are also paid tools. We also have one in our institution. So Turnitin is a very, very effective tool. If we manage to get a single digit of plagiarism in Turnitin, then our paper is very good to go. We can say that the original content is very good. And but we have to be very careful when we are using these open sources. We have to ensure that we can, unless and until there is a pressing need, let us not go for open sources, because we do not know whether there is a backup which is going on. Where the data is getting stored. So just to avoid all those things, to be on the safer side, we can always go for paid plagiarism software. And here is a screenshot where I've taken the result of from Dupli Checker. It seems to be really very good. It took some time to do the scanning, and finally it gives the number of words, and it says 4% plagiarism and 96% of uniqueness. Now, the very important thing, how do I make sure that my content is not plagiarized? Now, as a researcher, when we are coming up with the new ideas, let us not be overwhelmed with the new eureka moment. Let us make sure that we do not reveal till the time it is published. It's very important. Sometimes we tend to give a loose tongue. We are not tight-lipped. We just go about, we get excited about the new ideas. We start discussing. We do not know who is listening to us. Sometimes that can help, that can actually be the cause of stealing your content. And the safer ways of protecting is we can copyright. If I have a product, I can make sure that I can patent so that my thing is not stolen. And I can do all these because I have every right over my content, and it is my right to protect my own intellectual property. Yeah, I think, so this was just a brief on plagiarism, the types, and how we can avoid it. Thank you very much for all your patient listening. If you have any doubts, let us have some discussion.
Hello, madam. Hello, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yeah. Thing is, like most of the theses sometimes are sent for flag removal, right? Plagiarism removal. So
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry, I'm not able to.
Most of the time, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, most of the time, after the thesis is done, the scholars are asked to go for a plagiarism, below 10% or something.
Yes.
So they are approaching some kind of private institutions for removing the plagiarism.
Okay.
I mean, some practices I heard about it. So they will charge something and they'll remove the plagiarism and send it with below 10%. Now, what is the impact of this on a scholar?
Yes, ma'am. That's a very nice question. Ma'am, do you think that it falls in one of the categories that we just discussed?
It doesn't.
Yes, it does. To me, it appears like it is falling under paraphrase or find and replace.
Paraphrase. Because, they said forward checking or some kind of scaling they'll do, that kind of thing I heard from them.
Yes.
So if we take around
the content.
So
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So again, just because the flag value is lesser after trying to remove plagiarism, it doesn't mean that the author has contributed something original. Definitely what the author has tried to evade there is to rewrite with the new phrases so that the plagiarism checker does not pick it. Again, that does not fall under an ethical practice, because someday, if that particular content was copied from somewhere and the original author has copyrighted it And he has every right to legally proceed on this person because the underlying idea is.
Yeah. Go ahead with
So
the
any
proceedings,
day,
yeah.
it is a risky affair. So it is better that
Madam, what is
even if at the first. Pardon me, ma'am.
What is
Sorry, your
ORCID,
voice is
madam?
inaudible now.
ORCID?
ORCID. It's a unique
Yeah.
ID given to every. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, this is actually a unique ID given to every publisher. So this is just to avoid, I mean, to my knowledge, it is just to avoid me circulating my paper or trying to publish in multiple places, in multiple journals. Though it will be picked up. Say, for example, I have a very good paper, but I'm in a hurry to publish my work. I'm parallelly or simultaneously sending it to 2-3 people. Generally, it's one of the terms and conditions that most of the science-cited index journals they propose is that they do not want the author to share or parallelly publish the same work in some other journals. So this ORCID helps us to track who you are and make sure that the same paper is not published in multiple. It's a unique ID to identify this.
Because when I see my paper which was published in Springer, so some of them were like sourcing that. So they said, madam, your paper is there in ORCID. What is it? So that's what I wanted to clarify what is it.
Okay, ma'am.
So it's an ID given to a scholar or an author.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, any other questions? Ma'am, have I answered your question?
Absolutely, madam. Absolutely. You have answered. And I request organizers to share your entire recording to our email, I mean, to our WhatsApp or in the same group. It will be very beneficial to many, I would say. Very thought-provoking and very alarming session. Like, you know, you have made an alarming thought process to every scholar who are planning to, you know, publish their paper. A very, very innovative session.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Vinodini ma'am, actually the session is there in the YouTube also. So you can get into our college YouTube and you can download the video. So it is
Okay, thank you so much.
YouTube channel, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Is there any other queries from other participants? Thank you, Srividya ma'am, for taking your time off. I know that you have your personal commitments also. Amidst that, you agreed to have a session today. Thank you so much. And I thank the management, principal, vice principal, and all the coordinators for just arranging this session on this Saturday. Because finding a time amidst the all the event was a bit challenging this time. But we could make it because all their suggestions and their cooperation. Thank you so much. And I thank the participants for your active participation. Thank you so much. And the feedback link is posted in the chat box. You can just fill in your feedback form. You will get your e-certificate within a week. Thank you, Srividya ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for your patience.